Nothing feels more like self-care for me. Another cable cast on. Woke up on my birthday and she had released my dream cabled cardigan. Something about cables that just releases dopamine in my brain. Honestly, should have more fear than I do. Petiteknit means business with her positive ease. I would recommend this project to beginners who are trying to knit their first sweater. Worked up in a couple days. I really get the hype now. I love any excuse to go to the yarn store. Chef's kiss. Hi cozy friends, and welcome back to the Unraveled podcast. My name is Morgan, and here I like to unravel my anxious mind with my cozy hobbies, mostly reading and knitting. And if that sounds like your cup of tea, I hope you will stick around to chat about all the things I made in September as well as what I read. I'd love to hear down below in the comments what has been helping you unravel. This week, what has been helping me unravel is my husband and I have been watching the new season of Love is Blind, a new season of reality TV. I jump on it as the episodes are coming out. And for the longest time, my husband always joked about how silly this garbage TV is, but he started tuning in a little more each season and would ask me for updates about how the drama was going. And this season, he's fully in. He's like, wait for me, don't watch the episodes without me. So as new episodes of this season have been coming out, we've been watching it together, and I think it allows for a lot of really open conversations and communication, which is really valuable. And I think it's so funny watching these reality TV shows and learning so much from the way other people and other relationships play out. You can kind of see from an outside perspective where maybe they're having a communication breakdown, and it allows for conversations in your home. But I'd love to hear what's been helping you unravel, and I definitely want to hear about all of your projects. Let me know what you've been working on. So now let's dive into what I've been working on this past month. As you can see, I am wearing my finished cumulus blouse. If you missed it, I did post an entire project vlog working on my cumulus blouse. So I've shared everything I'm going to share in that vlog as well, but I want to give the little rundown. So I am wearing the cumulus blouse by petiteknit, and I knit it in Dolce by Sewek in the color 337. I bought it from Hobie Yarns. I buddy knit the cumulus blouse with my friends Mickey from Mickey's Cozy Corner and Haley from Haley's Space. I will have them linked in the description. And we were able to get together a few times during this buddy knit, both in person and on Zoom calls. We did a cast on party via Zoom because Haley lives in Melbourne, Australia, and Mickey and I live here in Canberra. Haley was visiting a few times during this buddy knit because her partner was here in Canberra for work. So it was really nice to get to knit with them in person and work on our cumulus blouses together. I really feel like this project is just so special because when you are working on a project, I feel like you always have these memories of working on them. So the memories I have associated with working on this blouse are so special. We had a girls' knit night here at my house and just so many fun times that I will cherish this forever, even though I don't love certain aspects about it, which I'm about to dive into. But firstly, I knit the size large, and that was my first mistake. I should have knit the size medium. According to my bust measurement, I should knit the size large. However, petiteknit specifically puts a lot of positive ease into her patterns, which usually is a benefit depending on how you like your garments to fit. But because this is a V-neck, it created a very deep V-neck on me, which isn't to my preference. I do not like a very scoop neck top. And so it actually allocated a lot of my yarn, which I was going to be running low on for the large, and so I really should have knit that medium. It allocated all of my yarn to the yoke. So I ended up having to crop the body just a little bit. And with it being such a deep yoke, if I raise my arms, my entire tummy's out, which is, again, not to my preference. If I were knitting this project again, I think I'd not only knit the medium, but I'd probably knit the O-neck blouse. And I am open to frogging this and re-knitting it someday as an O-neck if I don't get a lot of wear out of this. But I'm at least going to try wearing it this spring. It is spring here in Australia right now, and see how much wear I get out of it. And if I feel like I want to re-knit it, I will. I was really playing yarn chicken finishing this body. I had to do a thinner I-cord than I did on the cuffs of the sweater. I do not think ordering more of this yarn is an option as it has been discontinued. But I think all in all, I'm really happy with the fit of it. It looks really cute. I did have to redo the I-cord bind off on the body at one point, and this mohair split like crazy as I was trying to unpick it. So I really don't know if frogging would be an option with this project. I think that was specifically because it was on a bind off, but I can't imagine trying to frog mohair, so it's probably not something I'll do. But I do think everything I learned in this project was a very welcome learning experience. I got to do an I-cord for the first time, well, for the second time, because I have knit the cumulus blouse before. It is still in hibernation because I was playing yarn chicken on that one too, with another discontinued yarn. So I guess that's the story of my life with this project, and I should probably just give it up, but this was my first time working with mohair and I really do love it. I think it is so cozy and fuzzy. I have since purchased some Drops Kid Silk mohair, and I will say I think it's a lot softer than this is, but it's also a lace weight, and this was like a worsted weight, like a few mohairs kind of blended together, I think. So this one is a lot heavier, and I do think it has a bit of scratch to it where I didn't expect mohair to have, but it is so cozy and I am very happy with wearing the fabric on my body. And I have considered potentially just undoing this neckline and trying to tighten it up a little bit. I'm just worried that it would also shorten the body. Because this pattern is an Aran weight gauge, it works up incredibly fast. So I would recommend this project to beginners who are trying to knit their first sweater and wanting to learn how to do increases, wanting to learn how to do an I-cord edge. I think these are all really important techniques to have in your knitting arsenal, and I really enjoyed this project. We really flew through it. I think we knit it in under a month, but I was done with the majority of this project in like 2 weeks. I just ended up waiting on my friend Haley because she lost her game of yarn chicken and we had to wait for her to get some more yarn to finish all together. But yeah, a very simple and classic style knit. I highly recommend the Cumulus Blouse by petiteknit if you are in the market for a flowy, cozy, oversized blouse. My next finished object I finished while I was away on my birthday getaway, which I have an entire vlog for up on my channel now, and I will have that linked up here. I knit the August Colorwork Cuff Club socks by Summerlee Knits, and these were my first colorwork socks and only my like third pair of socks total. They are quite comfortable, however, getting them on is a bit of a trick because floats of the colorwork in just a few sections are quite tight and I'm worried I'm going to like break them as I get it over my heel. I have to actually wrestle with them to get them over my heel. So that's something I'm gonna be more mindful of in the future. I think I need to purchase a second set of sock knitting needles in a slightly larger size, just like a 1/4 millimeter larger for my colorwork sections so that those floats don't end up too tight, which the pattern does call for. I just didn't have on hand, so I just tried to knit looser during the colorwork section, and obviously that doesn't always work out, especially as a beginner. I knit these socks in a yarn from a local hand dyer here in Canberra. I got this yarn at the Canberra Wool Expo back in, I think, May. The color variations are absolutely stunning, and I'm really happy with the contrast between the main color and the contrast color. They really complement each other well, and I think this pair of socks just turned out perfectly. I'm so very proud of them, especially for them being my first colorwork socks and colorwork being something that intimidates me so very much. I think socks are so rewarding. I really get the hype now because they are so quick and fun to work on. You just get little sections at a time and it just feels so potato chippy, like, oh, I'm on the heel now. One thing after another, and then you have a whole pair of socks. I think the hardest thing about sock knitting is just making sure you cast that second sock on immediately. Otherwise, you'll completely lose your mojo and end up with half a pair of socks. I cannot understate the value of this Colorwork Cuff Club. I think joining the Colorwork Cuff Club now is $13.99 US, but if you purchased during August, that was also marked down. If you purchased right now for that $14 US, you already get the base pattern for the regular vanilla sock along with 5 charts, because she's done 2 double months since August and is going to be releasing another motif each month until next August. So you will literally have at minimum like 15 patterns by the end of this because she's already done 2 double months. The October charts are these really cute ghosties and apples. I don't know if I'm going to get to them, but I really love the ghosties, and I will put up a picture of my friend Nikki's and my friend Haley's because they are both knitting them and they're so cute. So if you are looking for some cute socktober patterns, I highly recommend checking out the Colorwork Cuff Club because, like I said, you'll have 5 socks to knit just in that one purchase and more to come each month. Also, if you are new to sock knitting, I highly recommend the video from Kristen Lehrer. She has an entire video about how to knit socks, and my first 2 pairs of socks, I like religiously watched every section in order to learn how to do them. So again, if you're new to sock knitting and need a guide and you need someone to show you how to do it, I love that video. The next item I have to talk about is crazy because it wasn't even on my queue last episode of this podcast, and it is now a finished object, and it's a garment. This literally didn't exist last month, but it is the Anker tee by petiteknit. It's actually the Anker summer shirt. She has a couple of these. The Anker tee is the one I think in fingering weight yarn, but this is the one in DK weight yarn. I think I'm gonna pop this on to show you real quick. So this is my Anker summer shirt by petiteknit. I really wanted to hand knit an everyday summer garment, and I wanted to knit it in a yarn that didn't feel like too luxurious and special to sweat in. I wanted to get more comfortable wearing my hand knits more often and not keeping them too precious. I want to embrace wearing my knits often. I knit this in Keepsake Fiber Co.'s Organic 8-ply, which is a DK weight yarn, in the color Atmosphere. It is from Spotlight, which is like Australia's version of a Joann's or Michael's. But funnily enough, as an American, when I walk in Spotlight, it actually feels like a Bed Bath & Beyond, but with a yarn section. The Anker summer shirt is a circular yoke top that turns into a raglan after you have done the ribbed yoke. And then it has a short sleeve, but I did shorten the sleeves a little bit more. It's supposed to come to about your elbow, and I wanted a little bit shorter, but we'll talk about the sleeves more in a second. I knit it in the size medium, and I think it's funny because I often fall in between the size medium and large, so I was always sizing up just to be on the safe side. But since my experience with the Cumulus blouse and this being a summer project, I wanted to have less positive ease. At the underarms, I ended up casting on 8 stitches instead of 7 as my size recommended because I wanted to have very neutral ease. So I did some math for my gauge and my bust, and if I cast on 8 stitches, I would have exactly a neutral ease. And I will say it is a perfect fit. I'm really happy with it. The only thing I wish I'd done was tried to figure out how to add in some short rows. I've never done short rows before, but with this being a circular yoke, I will say it does ride up in the front. Also, I haven't mentioned it, but this shirt is entirely unblocked. I haven't blocked it yet because, as I was going to say, I shortened the sleeves, but I did the same amount of decreases that you would do if you were knitting down to the elbow, which was a silly learning experience error. Obviously, you don't want to do the same number of decreases because then this part of your arm is more narrow than this part. So I am going to be redoing the sleeves. I'm just going to redo the sleeves enough to remove one of the decreases so that it's not so tight and kind of cutting into my arm. I want it to just lay neutrally around my arm. This entire top is knit on a 4mm needle except the ribbing, which is on a 3.5mm, and it had a gauge of 20 stitches by 28 rows with a DK cotton weight yarn. This project genuinely flew off the needles. This is my first summer wear project besides my Cumulus blouse, which I don't really think falls into summer knitting. And with it being DK instead of a fingering weight summer project, it really just worked up so quickly. I wasn't even trying to knit it fast, but all in all, it was only on my needles from September 17th to October 6th, and I was working on several other whips along that time frame. So not much time at all, and a really fun project. With ribbing being quite tedious, I thought it would take me a lot longer, but this part worked up in a couple days. So obviously the fastest garment I've ever made, and I do not want to like normalize the mindset of like having to make as many garments as possible as quickly as possible, but I am happy to have been able to knit this so quickly so that I could wear it this spring and this summer. I did get to knit this on the Aussie coast for my birthday in my vlog, and I think it's another one of those pieces that just has those special memories associated, just stitched into the garment, all of these special memories. So I'm really happy that I got to do that. But yeah, what I'm probably going to do is give it a block, see how the sleeves lay on my arms, and if it's still kind of tight, I will just undo that final decrease before doing the ribbing and redo that. I think it's so important to be willing to redo or fix certain parts of your knitting to get more wear out of it and be happier with the final finished garment so that you wear it lots. What's the point in spending all this time knitting a garment only to shove it in the back of your closet because it doesn't fit right? Besides just enjoying the experience of knitting, which is also incredibly valid. I think that is all for my finished objects, so I'm going to jump back into my cumulus blouse so we can talk about whips. The first whip we're going to chat about is my Salty Days sweater by Kutovakika. If you haven't seen already, I am hosting a Salty Days knit along, and it started on the 1st of September but is running till the end of November, so it is not too late to join. There are a lot of people still waiting on yarn or ordering yarn, so you will not be behind. I am knitting this in Knit Picks Heatherly worsted weight yarn in the color Sea Glass, which is so perfect and complementary for this beautiful pattern. The Salty Days sweater is an all-over charted lace cable work sweater, but it works up surprisingly fast. Like, I really flew through the body of this, and now I've just been kind of slowly working on the twisted rib neckline, and I've had the body on hold for about a week because I'm trying to summon the courage to do the twisted rib all around the body. I am knitting it in the size medium to give me more than enough positive ease. I think I'll still have 20 centimeters of positive ease, even though my bust circumference should fall under large. I did go up a needle size to meet gauge on this project because I felt like I was having to stretch my gauge swatch in order to really meet gauge. So it is giving me that really oversized drop shoulder effect that I am very excited about. Here is the progress I have made on mine. I have all but completed the body because I just need to do the twisted rib hem, but I am so proud of it and how it's working up. I do feel like my collar was a little bit tighter than I would have liked. I do like a wider neck, especially on a breezy sweater like this, so I may consider redoing my collar on my Salty Days. However, twisted rib on a small circumference is so tedious that it was all I could do to finish it once, so I don't know if I'm going to be willing to do it again, at least not until after a block, and see how I like how it wears then. And then maybe if I still don't like it or want it a little wider, then maybe I will redo that. It is just so cool to see all of the knitters helping each other in the chat and being able to support each other along the process of this pattern. It has been so fun and so special to see everyone's yarn choices and different modifications people are making to it. I do think I'm going to knit the charted sleeves. I haven't 100% decided yet, but someone in the group chat did put up a document of the modification to do charted sleeves, so I feel like I might as well, right? One thing that really brings me joy about this pattern is the way the neck ribbing increases literally perfectly go around the collar. I do have an end to weave in right there, so that's why there's a random hole there. But the shoulders having this beautiful eyelet detail is also so satisfying, and I really, really love this cabled chart here. The lace work is so nice. I've had a sneeze for like 2 minutes and it's not coming. But the lace work, this is kind of my second time doing lace work, and I really enjoyed it. I feel like I learned how to kind of read my lace knitting just a little bit, at least for this pattern. So I do see the appeal of lace, but I do think I'm just a cable knitting girly. I really enjoyed doing the cable section. As you'll see coming up in my whips, I have another cable cast on because I cannot help myself. This is my cast on of the DAGMAR jacket by petiteknit. It is a new all over cable work pattern from her. And if there is one thing about me, I see a new cable cardigan and I can't help myself. I fell in love with this knit as soon as she started teasing it on her Instagram and was sharing it on my stories, like, what yarn should I do for my stash? And then my Aussie friends and I ended up going to a yarn shop right before my birthday. So I went ahead and splurged on a sweaters quantity or a cardigans quantity of the Cascade 220 color brown number 8686. I feel like it is so perfect for this project. And then I woke up on my birthday and she had released my dream cabled cardigan project. It felt like a gift to me and it felt like it was meant to be. So I immediately purchased it, of course. And as soon as we got home from my birthday trip, I started winding up my yarn and gauge swatching for the DAGMAR jacket. I really doubt myself when I am gauge swatching, and I always want to trust the designer. So even though my gauge felt like it was slightly under, I ended up casting on with the recommended 4.5mm needle. I'll show you on screen how much progress I made on that, but I did end up frogging it because it was going to end up incredibly too small, and I felt like the honeycomb in the center was just really tight. So I frogged it and I recast it on with a 5mm needle. And I also made a couple little modifications. I decided to do seed stitch inside of the diamonds instead of just pearls, and also did double moss stitch over here instead of seed stitch, which kind of imitates some of the features of the book club cardigan that I have knit and love so very much. I just think that the seed stitch inside the diamond looks so very nice, and I didn't want to have seed stitch here and here, so I just really like that I did the moss over here instead. I think now that I am knitting it on a 5mm needle, the cables just look so much more relaxed, and I am very proud of myself because this is my first time doing honeycomb. There is something about cables that just releases dopamine in my brain in the best way. Nothing feels more like self-care for me than working on a cable knit. I think cable knitting is quite mindful for me because I'm able to use my hands but also my brain just enough to kind of escape, you know, kind of turn off all the thoughts. So it's really helpful and valuable for me, and it really helps me unravel. I am going to be knitting a size medium, as I've talked about a lot in this video. Petite knit means business with her positive ease. The medium is going to give me 20 centimeters of positive ease, and I think that's more than enough. That's what my book club cardigan gave me, and it's quite oversized and cozy. So I will be very happy with a medium as long as I am knitting on gauge, which thankfully now I am. My next whip I'm probably not going to talk about too long because I've barely made any progress on it since you last saw it, but I cast on the loom pullover by Sari Nordlund in the last week of August to keep myself busy because I really wanted to cast on the Salty Days, but I was waiting for my knit along to begin. And everything you see here pretty much worked up in that 4 days before the Salty Days knit along began. And I did size up a needle on this project as well. I'm doing the color work on 5.5mm needles instead of 5. I am knitting my loom pullover in Annette Erickson Scandi wool in the color Toffee and Linen. It's a really fun and quite addictive pattern, but obviously it's just been unintentionally hibernated because of some of my other more demanding whips. I do look forward to working on it again, but I feel like with us entering spring, I'm only really going to be working on one like woolly item at a time because I'll probably want to be picking up more cottony and lightweight things throughout the summer. But my goal is to definitely have the loom and DAGMAR done around next fall, which I think in Australia begins around March. My last two whips are both for my husband. I'm not going to talk about the next one very much because there hasn't been much progress on it since the last time you saw it, but it is my husband's Mille cardigan by Regina moessmer. I am knitting this in Knit Picks Simply Wool in the color Winnie, which I think is a really nice beige grayish shade. I am actually knitting his cardigan in the round. I added steeking stitches, which is going to be my first time steeking, but I honestly should have more fear than I do with new knitting techniques. I just go all in and we'll figure it out along the way. I watch all the videos ever put up on the subject and then I just go for it. But with it being an adult man's cardigan, I just was not going to be knitting back and forth long purl rows for an entire adult man's cardigan. So I'm very happy with my decision to knit it in the round. It is coming out quite nicely. As I said in my yarn stash video, I actually bought more than enough yarn, and I wanted to be able to have a garment for both him and I in this same yarn. Maybe I'll even have enough to squeeze out one for my son as well to all be matching. And then my last whip for this video is a sock. I spontaneously cast this on for my husband. I was organizing my yarn stash when he came home from work, and I was just going through my sock yarns, and he saw this one and really liked it and said, you know, like he's been wanting socks since I finished my sweet pea sock. So when he saw this yarn, he's like, yeah, I would love to have socks in that color, and was like, if you don't want to use the one that you bought for yourself, you can just go to the yarn store, get me this yarn. And I love any excuse to go to the yarn store and buy more yarn. So I was like, sure. And I cast this on. I'm kind of making up the pattern as I go. I'm loosely following the I'm So Basic sock by Summerly Knits, as well as the style of the Indoorsy sock, but this is a fingering weight yarn, so I'm not really following the numbers on that pattern as much as the style. I did a nice long 1x1 cuff, and then switched to 2x2 ribbing on the leg that is just stockinette on the back. And then I did a different heel than usual. It's just a stockinette heel with short rows, I think. Again, I don't know the terminologies of some of these heels that are in certain patterns. I just kind of do what they say and figure out the names later, I guess. But I think it looks quite nice. I did the ribbing because my husband has quite a wide foot, and he does want his socks to be tight. He feels like a lot of shoes and socks are quite tight on his like wider foot. They're too narrow. So actually when I was decreasing from the gusset, I decided to not decrease to the same number of stitches as I cast on. I did 2 more stitches than that, and I think that will allow the ribbing to really stretch out but give him the room he needs in his foot. And I absolutely love this yarn. It is Cascade Heritage. Can't wait to make some socks for myself in this yarn as well, but I'm really enjoying working on this, and I look forward to doing longer cuffs on my socks going forward, because I usually only do like 12 to 14 rows of cuff, and I really like how this looks with the extra long cuff before the leg. I knit the cuffs 24 rows long, which is obviously double what I usually do. I really love being able to tailor my hand knits to my body or my son or my husband's body, because I have said it before and I'll say it again, I strongly believe that our clothes are meant to fit our body, not our bodies our clothes. And it's special to be able to take measurements and make things fit the way they should, especially as I'm learning and growing in my knitting. I also think I'm enjoying sock knitting more since I got my ChiaoGoo lace knitting needles. I bought the size 2.5 millimeter and on the 80 centimeter cord. They have a much sharper point, which really helps when you're working with fingering weight sock yarns. And I just do magic loop technique with these. And compared to the cheap needles I used to use for my sock knitting, it's just a much more pleasant experience. This cable is so nice. I totally get the hype around the ChiaoGoo red lace knitting needles now. So it allowed me to get really hyper fixated on this project, and I'm not getting the hand cramps I used to get with sock knitting now. So that's really nice. And then lastly, let's talk about what I've been reading lately. I have been reading the Divine Rivals series by Rebecca Ross. I am on the 2nd book, Ruthless Vows, and this series is just chef's kiss. When I talked about books I wanted to read this year, I think that this is one of the ones that I predicted would be 5 stars. I feel like it still blew me out of the water. Even though I thought it sounded like a book series that would be so up my alley, I really had no idea. This series is everything I thought it would be, and so much more. It is a fantasy series about two journalists. There's a war between gods, and these journalists are war correspondents, and they are kind of rivals. But as the series goes on, it becomes so much more. There are beautiful letters that they write to each other, and their chemistry just like gives me butterflies. I eat up every word of this book. Her writing is just amazing. Let me read you some of my highlights to just give you a picture of how beautiful the writing is. One of my most recent highlights is, "I confess that I am hungry for your words." And like that is the perfect picture of like how good the writing is, of how compelling their chemistry is. And then this sentence I highlighted really paints a picture of just how beautiful everything is described. It says, "It felt odd to be here again, the sunset staining the window panes, the laundry hanging like ghosts." Even just the way she paints a scene is just incredible. Sometimes when I read books like this, I just want to slow down and digest every word, because it shows that the author put so much love and attention into even just small descriptions of their writing. And I feel like these days that kind of writing style is harder to find, and I'm obsessed. I can't wait to read more of this author's writing, and I highly recommend this series. Like, I've been begging my friends to pick this book up. Need everyone to read this so that I can talk about it with them. It is available on Kindle Unlimited, so if you have Kindle Unlimited, definitely check out this copy. And if you don't and are interested in Kindle Unlimited, I will have that linked in the description so that you can check out this title and all the other like millions of titles. One more little excerpt I want to read to you is, "The sun would continue setting and rising. The moon would persist in waxing and waning. The seasons would bloom and mold. And the war would still rage until one god or both fell to their grave." The stakes and the plot are so well written. There's so much tension between the characters. They keep being kept apart, and I'm just on the edge of my seat for every word of it. I'm not sure if Ruthless Vows is the final installment of the Divine Rivals, but soak up this series and enjoy every moment with these characters. It is so very good. And like I said in my last video, I spend the majority of my self-care unraveling time knitting and watching comfort shows or reality TV, like I talked about earlier in this episode. So I don't get as much reading done as I used to, but when I do read, I try to make sure it is books I'm really enjoying, and this is one of those that I very highly recommend. I want to thank you so very much for spending your time unraveling with me again this week. Don't forget to let me know down in the comments what you were working on while watching, and I will be wishing you a very cozy week.